Good morning, everyone. Hello. My name is Brad Walsh, owner of Visiphoria Photography, hosting my brand new podcast, Empowerography. I am here live with AmberLee Fuller, owner of AmberLee Boudoir Photography. She is based out of Oklahoma City, Oklahoma, and let's jump right in.
All right. I'm ready whenever you are.
Good morning, Amber. How are you this morning?
Good morning. How are you?
I'm doing well, thanks. So let's jump right into your podcast here. I'm going to start off. I've got a few questions for you. We'll just roll through and conversational flow, and that'll be that. So my first question for you: what got you excited about starting your own business?
Well, the photography business is actually my second business that I've owned. So I guess I've always kind of had an entrepreneurial spirit. I don't really like working for like big corporations and things like that. I like being able to change the rules to suit the people that I work with. And when you work with a corporation, you have to follow their guidelines and their rules. So the best way to combat that is to be your own boss.
Ah, okay, interesting. Could you tell me about one time or when you knew that you had to be an entrepreneur, photographer? What was your first business, since photography wasn't your first?
My first business was actually an environmentally friendly restaurant and janitorial supply company.
Oh.
We were based out of North Carolina, and we were the only supply company for restaurants and stuff like that had cleaning products and to-go products and things like that were 100% certified green at the time.
Okay.
So we kind of hit the market just right on all of that. And it was a lot of fun, and there was a lot of education involved in it, which I absolutely adore. So it was really neat to go in and help school systems switch over even to more environmentally friendly products, so that kids wouldn't be exposed to certain toxins and things like that, and also keep the areas clean.
Excellent. So how did you transition out of that business into photography?
Well, that's actually a funny story. I have wanted to be a photographer since I was 7 years old. My grandmother bought me my very first camera when I was 7, and I'm going to date myself really, really bad right now. It was a Barbie 110 film camera that she bought at Pick and Save.
Wow.
Southern U.S. people listening to this will recognize the reference to Pick and Save. It was kind of like a Dollar General or something like that, but it was only in the Southeast. And it was a very, very low end type of store. Okay. And then 110 film, as you know, as a photographer, yes, doesn't really exist anymore. So she bought me this Barbie themed 110 camera, and pretty much just told me to do what I do and, capture things that I thought were beautiful. And she would take extra shifts at the laundromat in order to develop my film for me. Oh. And I got to tell you, those are probably some of the worst pictures I've ever seen in my entire life. But I still have them because they're my first ones and everything. But I knew at that point that I wanted to be a photographer. I liked being able to freeze a moment in time. And so I continued taking photos just for me, all throughout my life and everything. I got into high school, and I was really excited that they offered a basic photography 101 class. Mm-hmm. And so I signed up for it, and my dad bought me a Minolta SR10. Uh-huh. So that was in 1992. Wow. And I learned I learned how to develop my film. I learned how to compose a shot, things like that. And I really went into loving the photojournalistic style of photography. And I continued to do that even through college. My mom was a big advocate of me going to college, because back then you really couldn't make any money as a photographer unless you worked for a big name studio or you just got lucky type of thing. And growing up in Daytona Beach, Florida, the likelihood that I was going to get lucky was slim to none. I didn't live in a big metropolitan area. I didn't have a whole lot of galleries that I could put images in and stuff like that. So I went to school and continued to do photojournalism and everything. I graduated with a nursing degree and worked as a nurse for about a year and decided I absolutely hated that.
Wow.
I mean, there were moments that were fulfilling and things like that, but for in the grand scheme of things, I really hated being a nurse. It was very mechanical for me.
Yeah.
And to me, nurses have to have, it can't be mechanical. They have to have a certain level of compassion and things like that. And it was just very mechanical for me. So, because I still had it in my head that, you have to have a real job, and photography is not a real job and it won't pay the bills, I went back to school and I got a business degree.
Okay.
And then that is when, that's when I had my restaurant and Jansan business. So having the business degree really, really helped. But I was doing, between nursing school and business school, I was doing a lot of photojournalism in the Atlanta area, and had a couple images that were picked up here and there by the Atlanta Journal-Constitution, which is the newspaper.
Yeah.
And so that was really, really exciting and everything, and I really, really liked that. And then I got approached, I want to say that it was probably 2008. I was approached by a local chef that I had met through the Jansan business, local to Atlanta. And he wanted me to do a culinary portfolio for him. And I went, okay, I can do that. And so, and he was like, okay, well, how much are you going to charge me for it? And I just kind of looked at him like he had three heads, because it was literally the first time I'd ever gotten paid to do any kind of photography. And I was like, I don't know. I've never been paid before. And he's like, what do you mean you've never been paid before? And I was like, yeah, no, I've never been paid before. And he's like, oh, well, that's going to change. And so he paid me $1,000.
Wow. That's awesome.
To do his culinary portfolio. And then he started talking with all of his chef friends about it. And before I knew it, I was making money in photography, and I was like, "Oh, holy crap!"
Wow.
So that's kind of the transition of how I went from hobbyist to being paid, was because somebody looked at me like I was nuts because I wasn't charging.
But that defining moment for you, when you knew you had to be, or you knew you wanted to be a photographer, was when your grandmother bought you that camera and started developing your film for you.
Yeah, that was it. It's almost like it's coded into my DNA. I feel the most at ease when I have a camera in my hand. And it's been that way ever since I was 7 years old. Anytime I've got a camera in my hand, I'm just like, okay, this is where I'm supposed to be, and this is what I'm supposed to do. And, and even when it's a god awful image, I'm like, it's okay, because this is what I'm supposed to do.
That's amazing. Okay. So what would you say is one of the most frustrating things about being a photographer?
The most frustrating? Oh, goodness.
One of. I'm sure there's many.
There are.
I know there are for me. So
there are so many. I think the most frustrating thing for me is seeing what we call in the industry the newbies, and how frustrated they can get, and they don't look at it as an art form. And there are two different kinds of photographers in the world. There are business photographers, and then there are artistic photographers. And I fall in that latter category. So I get really frustrated when the business-minded photographers are only looking at the dollars and cents of the photography industry.
Right.
And I sit there and I go, damn, I've had a camera in my hand for, 32 years. And, I've only been making money for 11 of it. Right. So
it's more about, yes, of course, this is your career and you've got to make money, but it's more about the art form than the money.
Yeah. I like when someone sees one of my images and they do that whole, and like they can feel the emotion behind it. Yeah. That's worth millions to me.
For sure.
So like, if there was a way that I could do what I do and not ever have to think about money at all, I would totally do it. And so it frustrates me when there are photographers out there that all they focus on is the money.
Right. Makes sense. Okay. So you've been in business for 11 years, you said, as a photographer? Is that right?
Yeah. 11 years of getting paid. Yes.
Okay. So what are some of the challenges you faced early on, and how did you overcome them?
Well, the first initial challenge was the transition into digital. I learned on film, so I really bucked the system and did not want to go to digital at all.
As a lot of photographers did that started on film.
Yeah. But with that, the flip side of that is that once I finally did pick up a digital camera, I already knew how to use it, and I didn't have to worry about learning how to shoot in manual or anything like that, because film cameras are manual.
Yeah.
So it was a very, very, very quick learning experience once I got to it. But I was really frustrated with the whole switching to digital. Something about smelling the chemicals and seeing your image magically appear on that piece of paper in front of you.
Right.
That was frustrating for me to have to leave that alone.
Yeah, that feeling is pretty incredible, because I started out on film as well, and just being in that room and, like you said, the smell of the chemicals and being around that, and then seeing that image for the first time come to life right before your eyes was just an incredible feeling.
Yeah, it was. Yeah. And so exactly. It's almost like a magical experience. You're like, oh, wow, I did that.
Yes, exactly.
And dumping a card onto the computer is just, it doesn't have that same flair to it.
Yeah, it doesn't translate as well, right?
Yeah, exactly. So that was a frustrating experience for me, was the switch from film to digital. And then imposter syndrome is very frustrating to me. And we all get caught up in it, where we compare ourselves to Sally Sue down the road, who appears to be doing all of this fantastic stuff and everything. But it's mindset at that point. And then I hate to use the word oversaturation, because I know for a fact that there are more than enough clients for every photographer that's out there. So I don't really believe in the concept of oversaturation. What I do get frustrated with is when an area all of a sudden has 1 million photographers, and they have that business mindset of, oh, well, I have to get more. And so then they don't value themselves.
Right.
And that's extremely frustrating to me. If you are a photographer, then you are an artist.
Mm-hmm.
You are creating art that will last a lifetime. And I don't care if you're a shoot and burn or if you're a print movement or whatever, you're still creating art that will last a lifetime. And if you don't value yourself, then it's the most frustrating thing in the world for me.
So how do you personally overcome the infliction, I guess we'll call it, of comparing yourself to others and getting caught up in all that? How do you overcome, because we've all done it. So how do you personally overcome dealing with that? Like, how do you stop yourself from comparing yourself and get focused back into you?
Well, the quick answer is I bitch and moan and complain about it.
Okay.
But I mean, the long answer to that is that I have built a network of friends that are within and without the industry. And as I start talking with them and just releasing those frustrations and the feelings and things like that, then I start to look back and go, oh, well, you're an idiot. So,
that's a little harsh.
Well, yeah, I self-deprecating humor is one of my fortes. But that's how I overcome it is, I believe that words have power. And if you hold on to all of those words, then they continue to have power over you. So if I'm sitting there and I'm thinking, oh God, I'm not as good as Sally Sue, and she's doing this and she's doing this and she's doing this, and oh, maybe I should do what she's doing and everything, and I just hold that inside, then it just kind of manifests and grows within me, and then I'm just like, oh God. But as soon as I start talking about it and I get it out of my head and out of my heart, then I can look at it more clearly. And go, okay, well, no, that's just what works for her. That doesn't work for me.
Right.
One of my favorite quotes is a quote that says, "Good for her, not for me." And so when I start getting into those modes, that's what I like. I have to get it out, and that's when I hear that quote in my head of "Good for her, not for me." And I can sit there and go, "Oh, okay, well, that works for her, but it's never going to work for me because my business model is not like that. Right. I'm not a mass producing photographer. I don't want to have 17 shoots in a week." Yeah. And whereas I didn't have that compassion and drive in nursing. It was very mechanical to me. In photography, I do have that compassion and that drive. I work hands-on with my clients for like 50 hours before they shoot. Right. And so I mean, I get to know my clients really, really well. Their spouses' names, their kids' names, their insecurities, that kind of stuff. And so just because Sally Sue did 17 shoots last week and she's posting in Facebook and all the stuff that she made X amount of money and, all the stuff, and she's so far behind in editing and all this stuff. I don't like that. I don't like the chaos factor. Right. I'm happy with 1 to 2 clients a week.
So wise words to live by. Good for her, not for me. Interesting. Yeah. I'll have to remember that. That's very
you might want to say good for him, not for me.
Yeah. That might work a bit better for me. So I've got to ask, why did you choose the genre of boudoir photography to get into, to focus your business on?
It was an accident.
Okay.
About 3 years ago, a friend of mine asked me if I would do a boudoir shoot for her. And at that time I was doing families and seniors, and I was still dabbling a little bit with food, although I didn't advertise food. It was more of a, hey, I know a photographer that does really good food stuff. I still did a little bit of photojournalism here and there type of thing. But I had a friend ask me if I would do boudoir, and I was like, I'm sure I can. let me research a little bit and everything, but I'm sure I like it. I mean, it's like any other kind of portrait. So yeah, I mean, it shouldn't be that hard.
Mm-hmm.
And, and so a couple weeks after that, I was like, all right, I got a good footing. I found A Creative Live by Jen Rosenbaum.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, I can do that. You know, I know enough about my camera. I know enough about lighting and natural light and enough about posing and things like that. I can totally do this. And so, I called her up and I was like, okay, I'm ready. And she's like, okie dokie. So I got another friend of mine who was a hair and makeup artist. I had used her for some of my senior portraits and everything. And we went to the house where this girl lived, and I was like, all right, you're going to get, you know, a full glam hair and makeup, and then we're going to shoot. And I'm just kind of, you know, winging it right now. And she's like, that's fine. I know you'll do great. And I'm like, okay, I'm glad you have faith.
Good to have other people's faith in you.
Yeah. So we shot for probably 2.5, 3 hours, because there was a lot of, like, at that point, I mean, she was a friend and I knew her, but I didn't know how much she had struggled with body image issues and how she had had an eating disorder when she was younger, and I just all kinds of things. But as we were shooting, she started talking about all of these things and how, you know, and how this is the reason why she wanted to do this photo shoot, was because she wanted to see herself the way other people saw her.
Mm-hmm.
And it was like a light bulb went off in my head, and I was like, oh wow, so this isn't really just another portrait session.
Yeah. I was just going to say, so that was your light bulb moment for boudoir photography.
Yeah. And, you know, we got done and I dumped my card and I was looking at the images, and I was like, oh wow, like you can see the light in her eyes. And that's a genuine smile. That's not okay, I'm going to look happy and everything. So I edited her entire session of like 70 images that evening.
Wow.
And well, because I was so excited about it, and I was just like, holy crap, I had never gotten that kind of gratification out of a photo session before. And so I texted her, and it was like 1:00 in the morning, and which was fine because she worked in a bar, so I knew she was up. So I texted her and I was like, hey, I've got your images ready. And she's like, are you serious? And I was like, yeah. And I texted her a sneak peek of one of them, and she FaceTimed me, and she was crying while at work. And I immediately thought, oh my God, she hates them.
You assumed the worst.
Yeah. And I was like, I've been wrong this whole day. Oh my God. And I'm like, oh my God, honey, are you okay? And she's like, I've never seen an image that makes me feel so beautiful.
Wow, that's incredible.
And I went, well, crap, now I'm going to be a boudoir photographer for the rest of my life.
So that one positive experience transformed you into...
Yeah. It was such a high to know that my images of someone made them feel so good that I just went, okay, so this is what I'm going to do for the rest of my life. This feeds my soul.
Yeah.
And so that's why I decided boudoir. And a couple years ago, I decided to exclusively be boudoir, because I did do a little bit of everything, including the boudoir, for about a year. And then a couple years ago, I decided that I was going to go exclusively boudoir, because I was going through a box of photos at my mother's house, and I found a boudoir session that my grandmother had done.
Wow.
Years and years and years ago. And I went, oh, okay. So if grandma can do it, then absolutely. and I mean, these images are from like 1948, 49, somewhere around there.
Must be gorgeous.
And I mean, and they're not what we would consider today as boudoir.
Right.
They would be more of a glamour style and everything. But the idea behind them, because you can see the look in her eyes, is the same look that we look for when we do boudoir. It's she felt so empowered behind that camera, and I was just like, okay, well, this is it. And so I came home from Florida and went, all right, so I'm going to take down my website for everything else and jumping in feet first.
Holy, that's incredible.
Yeah, it was pretty scary.
Oh, I'm sure. I have no doubts. It is scary. It's a very scary thing. If you could go back, what, if anything, would you change about how you did things with your business? Is there anything you would change, or would everything stay the same? Are you happy with how things have transformed or progressed? And
see, that one that's a tricky question, because I like where I'm at right now, and I know that I wouldn't have gotten where I am right now had it not gone the way that it did.
Right.
However, when I pay my student loan bill every month for nursing school, I do sit there and go, I really wish I had not wasted this time on nursing school and had maybe gone to film school, or, but I'm a firm believer that everything happens the way that it's supposed to and exactly in the right time. So, I mean, realistically speaking, if I hadn't gone to nursing school and found out that I really hated being a nurse, then I wouldn't have gone to business school, and and then I wouldn't have met the chef who was like, hey, I know you take some pictures. Could you do a portfolio for me? So like it's very much, everything was kind of a domino effect type of thing. So no, I don't think I would go back and change anything. Because it all led up to where I am right now.
Right. It all made you who you are, as a photographer, as a person, everything, the whole enchilada.
Yeah.
Okay. How about if you could go back and give your younger self one piece of advice, whether it be about life or business or anything, what piece of advice would that be?
I don't
know. It's a tough question. I'm making you think, Amber. I'm making you think.
One piece of advice. Probably don't spend so much time in my own head. I have a tendency, and from what I've read throughout the years and things like that, it's a very common trait for artists. We get caught in our head, and we, that thing, can't see the forest for the trees type of thing.
Yeah.
That would, and throughout the years and stuff like that, I have learned different coping mechanisms. Like I said, I have a very, very strong network of people in and out of the industry that I can talk to about it. And once I start talking about it, then things become clear. I wish that I wish that my younger self would have known that being in this industry doesn't have to be so solitary. Like, just because I'm a photographer doesn't mean that my best friend, who happens to be a restaurant manager, doesn't understand.
Right.
And while the industries are different, the issues still are the same. You still deal with jerky people, and you still like, so that would be like, if I had to give my younger self any advice, it would be, don't stay in your head so much.
Excellent. That's good. And one last question for you before I let you go. For the women out there listening, younger women or women thinking about getting into business, do you have any advice for them to help empower them and help them overcome any kind of fears about getting into business or self-doubt?
Okay, so just in business in general, I would say, I would say to them, just do it. If it's in your head and it's in your heart, then do it, no matter what anybody says, but do it smart, because you don't want to be that girl that they say, see, I told you so. You know,
Yeah.
You know, don't let anybody hold you back, you know, and that's just business in general. If you have an idea and you want to go with it, then by all means go with it. You know, just because you're a wife, a mother, whatever, does not mean that you cannot be in business for yourself. Some of the strongest women that I know are wives and mothers, and they're making thousands and thousands and thousands and hundreds of thousands of dollars a year. And they use the fact that they use their ability to multitask and everything like that to enhance their business. So like, they're, just because you're a mom, just because you have you have a husband or whatever, does not mean that you can't be in business for whatever you want to do, whether it is an advertising agency, photography, piano lessons. I mean, like, car washing, house cleaning, you know, like, just do it. For women getting into the photography business, the best piece of advice I could give you is ingrain in your head, you bloody well deserve to get paid. It's a quote from Sue Bryce, who I absolutely love. Sue, I am a very, very proud Suebie.
Suebie. That's a new one.
She has overcome so many obstacles in her photography career and in general, as being a woman. Female photographers, for some reason, have this thing that they don't deserve to be paid what they're worth. And even I was there too. I mean, I used to charge $75 for a full session and a disc with, 100 images. I mean, right. So women in this industry, for some reason, have the hardest time wrapping their head around the fact that they deserve to get paid and to get paid what they're worth, and nobody can define your worth but you. So, women getting into photography, the biggest thing I would say is, even if you don't believe it, say it to yourself multiple times a day. You bloody well deserve to get paid. Because that's probably the biggest obstacle for women in this industry.
Interesting. Well, I'd like to say thank you very much for your time, Amber. This is a very enlightening conversation. Thank you for sitting down with me and answering my questions and being my guinea pig for my first episode of my podcast, Empowerography. I really appreciate you being here with me.
Well, thank you so much for having me.
It was a pleasure chatting with you. And you have yourself an amazing day. And thank you all for listening in. I hope you all have a great day. And until the next time, thanks very much, guys. See you later.
Bye, guys.